Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Engagement Designer demo series. In the last episode, we went over the event catalog in the Administration Console, and how that event catalog tab could show us all the events on the eventing bus of the Engagement Designer, and how we could then use those events to trigger workflows. In this episode, we're going to go over the Bundles tab of the Administration Console. In the Bundles tab, it's much like all the other tabs that we've been through, and we have a search functionality where we can search by keyword. We have a refresh functionality, which allows us to refresh the page. We also have an ability to hide and show columns within this tab, and the ability to do multiple sort based on multiple columns, either ascending or descending. The Bundles tab is mostly used to import and export any jar files that are developed within the Avaya Breeze SDK. The Avaya Breeze SDK can be found at the URL at the bottom of this video, and it is used to develop any sort of extra functionality that you want to add to the Engagement Designer tool. Adding bundles to the Engagement Designer will then add tasks to the Engagement Designer development tool, which we will get to later. The important thing to know about this tab is that you can upload any sort of bundle that you've created within the SDK. Once you have successfully uploaded a bundle, which is these .jar files here, you can then deploy and undeploy the bundle. Deploying the bundle will then add those tasks and that functionality to the Engagement Designer tool. Undeploying it will remove said tasks from the Engagement Designer tool, which we will get to later. So as you can see here, we're currently sorting by the deployed bundles. If I were to click here, I can see that we have a couple of undeployed ones, and these are ones that are not going to be found within the Engagement Designer tool, maybe because they had an older version, or just because they're not ones that we want to use anymore. But what's important to know here is that the deployed ones are going to be adding that functionality into the Engagement Designer development tool that we get to later. If you want to share bundles between systems, there's the download button here. This will download that .jar file onto your computer, where you could then share that .jar file across multiple systems. .jar is a Java-based file, and .jar can be accessed through the Avaya Breeze SDK and developed within the Avaya Breeze SDK. Delete will then delete that bundle. Once it's undeployed, it'll delete that bundle from the system. Attributes, much like the other tab that we saw within workflows, allows you to change attributes within a bundle, and these attributes can be defined within that Avaya Breeze SDK. Attributes are very helpful when it comes to things like changing passwords or changing IP addresses when using things like external databases or external systems within a bundle. So for example, if I have a bundle here that calls out to my external database, I would maybe want to change that IP address or that password over time as my information changes about that database. But instead of having to undeploy the bundle, change all that information using the SDK, and then redeploying it, I could have just a bundle attribute instead and just change that attribute on the fly. That attribute is actually very helpful in order to change things, like I said, such as passwords or IP addresses. Lastly, we have export to SVAR file. SVAR file is a Breeze standard, and that's a file that a Breeze can understand. That's something that you could actually export a group of bundles into an SVAR file, or a single bundle into an SVAR file, so that Breeze could execute that SVAR file without even requiring the Engagement Designer. But without getting into too technical of detail, that's the export to SVAR file button right there. So this is the Bundles tab, and like I said, this is showing all the functionality that we've added to our Engagement Designer platform, specifically within this lab. So here we've added some Zang functionality. Zang is a subsidiary of Avaya. We've also added things like read numbers, real-time speech, things with IBM Watson, and all sorts of things within this lab that have been added using this Bundles tab. In the next video, we're going to go over the routing. And routing is basically refining the information that comes in from the event catalog. So in the next episode, we'll go over that, and just know that with the Bundles tab, it's about adding and removing functionality from the Engagement Designer.